What's up, YouTube? Today, we're diving into a complete breakdown of the Alpha Silo and its Seepage Zone. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So when you first start out, you're going to run forward and notice a giant pit in front of you. If you look down in this pit, you'll actually see claymore lines sticking out from the platforms. Your goal is to drop down through the center and not get near any one of those lines. The claymore blast itself will not kill you, but it will knock you out of your flyer, and the fall all the way to the bottom could actually kill you. One thing to note is this silo has 5 main rooms, including the Seepage Zone. In this guide, I'll walk you through the threats in each room and explain the differences you'll encounter between normal mode, hard mode, and pro mode. My goal is to ensure this guide is helpful no matter what stage of the game you're currently in. So right here, we're about to approach the first main room. This first large room typically has about 5 normal enemies in it. Now, depending on the difficulty of the game mode you're playing in, it could have a few more or less enemies. It does seem like in the higher difficulties, you will see less enemies that are just a little bit harder. And in the lower difficulties, you'll see more enemies that are typically a little bit easier. You'll also notice me using the Maiden Deviant in this gameplay. Normally, I run with the dog, but I wanted to switch things up. I do have to admit, the Maiden was a pretty solid choice for the silo thanks for her ability to completely neutralize the threats from the few elites that you will encounter during your gameplay. That said, I still recommend you use whatever deviant complements your personal playstyle. But honestly, she did a great job here. No matter what mode you're playing on, there are always 2 guys at the top of that set of stairs. While they are head glitching and it is slightly annoying, just do your best to hit them in the head and they will move from cover and make your job 10 times easier to kill them. So at this point, we have a couple lasers to get through. They're not overly hard, just take your time, wait for them to open up and run through them. In most difficulties, they won't down you, but it is damage that you don't need to take. After you get through, make sure you hit this button, that way it deactivates the lasers. And now we're in what I consider to be the keycard room. This room typically houses 1 elite and 3 normal bad guys. On some of the lower difficulties, there might be a few more normal level guys, but it's nothing that you won't be able to handle. Also, one more thing to note here. In the harder difficulties, you will find that this elite does have a shield around it. In the normal mode, it will not be a shielded enemy. After you kill the elite, make sure to grab the keycard off of its body. If you find that you're having a hard time dealing damage to the enemy because of its minigun, just give it a second for its gun to overheat, and then you can peek out and put in damage at that time. After you do all of your looting, head back out of the room and back down the hallway. Once you run a little ways, you will see a room on the right. Go ahead and use your newly acquired keycard to move forward. Now this is actually going to open you up into what I consider to be the second big room. This room typically has about 6 normal soldiers in it. Again, that number can vary a little bit depending on if you're in normal mode or the harder modes, but typically you will see about 6 enemies here. Keep in mind that a few of them are snipers, so you will have to look up and there's always this guy here, you will need to walk by the door to trigger his movement. Now in the gameplay, you'll see me jump up and grab the overhead scaffolding. You will not be able to do this without a jump potion. If you don't have a jump potion, there are stairs that will get you up there, and you can always double back to go up and get the loot. On the right, you will see the access to the Seepage Room. Once you open the door, you will notice that there is typically 1 elite and 4 regular guys here. I typically take the fight from the doorway where I have a little bit of cover, but if you don't feel like this is enough cover for you, you can always push in and go to the left. Do not push in and go to the right because there is always a guy standing to the right. Once you clear all of the bad guys in the room, it's time to go ahead and activate the batteries. In order to activate the batteries in this room, you will need the stun baton. I typically just run a full lap and hit all of the batteries as I make my loop. After I hit the last battery, I go back up to the top of the stairs and normally post up on the left side so I have a little bit of cover. The boss will spawn out of the screen on the wall. Another thing to note here is that in the hard and pro mode, this boss will have a shield, but that shield is not going to be on the boss in the normal mode. In my gameplay, I basically just burn this boss down. If you can't just burn it down, there are a few things you need to be aware of. This is basically a giant flower-headed boss, so it will spawn gnars and shoot blood blobs at you. It's typically the same type of fight that you would find if you found this as a field boss in the open, so just treat it the same way. When you're done, grab your loot and head back out of the Seepage Room. Now, once you get out of the Seepage Zone, you're going to go around the corner, and instead of going to the right like we did, you're going to go to the left. This will actually take you right to the main boss's room. There are a few things you need to know about this room. This is a very large, open room with a bunch of computers in it. There are a lot of places for enemies to hide. So because of that, I typically take the fight from the doorway. In the higher level difficulties, the boss again will have a shield. This shield is not present in the normal mode of this fight. Another thing to note that you will not see in this gameplay because I just killed a boss too fast is that once it hits certain damage thresholds, it does call for additional backup. And if you are in the main room, it is very easy to be caught off guard by this backup, which is another reason I like to try to take the fight out in the hallway. Either way, it's not that big of a deal. Just be aware so you're not blindsided when they spawn in. After you're done with that, run down, go into the door to the right, and make sure to grab your loot before you head out of the fight. And there you go, guys. That's everything you need to know to clear the alpha silo. I wanted to make sure this video worked for everyone, no matter what stage of the game you were currently in. If you have additional tips and tricks that help make this silo easier, definitely let us know down in the comments below. If you found the video helpful, consider subscribing for more Once Human content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.